All right, looks like we are live. I am here with Arttemis Kezsainn. I'm Clint Evans of the Pure Chocolate Living Show. My guest today is Arttemis Kezsainn, who's a visionary entrepreneur, public speaker, creator, and founder of Juicing for Fat Loss and Blending for Beauty products. And he's also the founder of New Earth Living Foods, which is a very interesting line of chocolate and foods that are inside Whole Foods. These are 7 raw, organic, vegan superfoods and snacks found inside 26 Whole Foods in the Southwest region. And finally, he has studied holistic health and wellness technologies for 15 years, pursuing his passion to teach and embody the art of radiant health. Welcome to the show today, Arttemis.
Awesome, Clint. Thank you. I'm excited to be here because we get to talk about one of our favorite foods, raw chocolate.
Absolutely, I love it. Raw cacao, synonym raw chocolate. So let's dig right into this, Arttemis, and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this whole health and wellness field.
Well, I started 15 years ago in Dallas, Texas. I was a student of Chinese medicine and learning Chinese tonic herbs and superfoods way back in 2001 before it became mainstream. And so I was eating like goji berries and reishi mushroom and astragalus and asparagus and all these amazing healing foods at around 21 years of age. And flash forward about 7 or 8 years, I fell in love with my wife, and we went to go work at the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center with Dr. Gabriel Cousins. And while we were working at the Tree of Life, we facilitated spiritual fasting programs, reversing diabetes, and deep healing and transformation using juicing, raw foods, superfoods, and medicinal herbs. I was spa director there, and that's where I first got immersed in the world of raw cacao, also known as chocolate. So we were living at the Tree of Life in a community of 50 hippies, vegans, doctors, naturopaths, raw food chefs, and we would have these elixir parties and these chocolate parties and these superfood fandangos. And people would bring the most delicious chocolate smoothies, raw gourmet, cacao butter chocolates, different chocolate-covered things, chocolate-covered frozen things, and they were all made with some of the highest quality raw food and superfood ingredients. So I learned a whole different world of chocolate than what most people know from Hershey's or Nestle. I mean, it was beautiful to experience all the flavors and the culinary quality of really good chocolate. And after the Tree of Life, 2 years of service there, we served thousands of people and got to witness people reversing diabetes through juicing. We moved to Austin, Texas in 2009, and in 2010 we founded New Earth Living Foods and started making our own raw, organic, vegan superfoods. And so we took all of our knowledge and expertise from the Tree of Life and just put it into our products, which is now available in 26 Whole Foods and stores nationwide. I mean, we're concentrated in the Southwest, so I've learned a lot about how to make chocolate taste good and how to make it really delicious.
A couple of things stand out. First, did you say a fandango of superfoods?
A superfood fandango, it's like...
I'm thinking of the movie listing website, and you made it into superfoods. That's pretty awesome. And the other thing is, I have not heard of, I've heard of the Tree of Life in the biblical sense, but obviously this is some kind of a place or a business, and I imagine most people probably haven't heard of that. How did you guys find out about that?
Well, we were living in Northern California, which is like the mecca of raw foods.
That says it all.
Yeah. We were living in Northern California with some friends of ours who were one of the original investors of the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center, and it is a spiritual fasting and healing retreat in Patagonia, Arizona. We moved from our friends, from Mill Valley, San Francisco area, they called the Bay Area, which is Northern California. We moved from there to the Tree of Life from a gentle nudge from our friends, Ayman and Rowan, and who are good friends of Gabriel and Dr. Cousins. And the Tree of Life is a place where people go and fast and learn raw foods and apprentice and heal. And it's one of the most advanced holistic healing centers in America, and they've reversed literally thousands of cases of type 2 diabetes. They have a 60% success rate reversing type 2 diabetes.
Which is the one you're not born with, correct? The adult
Yes.
onset version, not the congenital version.
Yeah, so there's the adult onset type 2, and then there's type 1, which is usually genetic, and
Right.
where the body's not producing insulin at all. Whereas type 2 is insulin resistance, or lifestyle-induced type 2 diabetes. And so that I got to see the healing powers of raw foods in the form of juice fasting and really just eating more plants, because it's not about going all raw. It's about just bringing more fruits and vegetables into your life and getting the right mineral balance. And then the body is self-healing. Along with all of that, though, is the fun aspect. It's like eating fruits and vegetables every day gets a little boring, and so you start learning about crackers and soups and smoothies and elixirs and raw desserts and chocolate cheesecake made from sprouted cashews and cacao, and so there's this whole world out there of gourmet raw beyond just what most people think of fruits and vegetables. And that's what I learned there, is the not only the healing aspect of raw foods, but also the gourmet aspect, which was awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. There's a lot of flavors and, like you said, a whole hidden world of foods out there that people have not been exposed to by their parents or the media, because the media doesn't cover it and their parents just didn't know any better.
Yeah, and we've only had access to really good cacao for the past 15 years. I mean, it hasn't been widely available. It was because of David Wolf and the work he did in the late 90s and early 2000s that brought Essential Living Foods, was one of the first importers of good high-quality cacao powder from the farms. And we'll talk more about cacao, single origin cacao, and why you buy cacao ethically from good farms.
Yeah, and that's pretty amazing too, because it was the foundation. The cacao beans and avocados was the foundation of the Aztecs, and they were small people, but they were overall very healthy, and that was one of their big secrets.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
yes.
when I talk with a lot of business people or people that have gotten into health, a lot of times I see there was some kind of trigger event, some kind of health challenge or problem they ran into that got them into that. Was there something like that for you, or just that chance thing that said, let's go to Tree of Life?
There was. When I started studying nutrition and holistic healing 15 years ago, I was a very shy introvert. I had really a lot of skin problems, skin challenges, and I learned early in my career as a practitioner of the healing arts that I had an infection in my body. I had a lot of candida and fungus, and it was causing toxicity in my colon and my liver. So when I started studying Chinese medicine 15 years ago, the doctor I worked with and apprenticed under for 2 years, he was an expert at candida cleansing and healing the gut, and he worked in combination with a colon hydrotherapist. So for the first 2 years of my career, I was learning Chinese medicine, I was healing my colon, I was cleansing my colon, doing colonics, I was doing all kinds of cleanses, and I cleared up my entire digestive system, restored my emotional well-being. So I went from a very shy, contracted person to a very expressive, more expansive person, and now I feel a lot more secure and healthy in my world from cleansing my digestive system. And it took about 2 years to do this. From 2001 to 2003 was my period of deep healing and transformation of my GI tract. And I was learning nutrition as I went through this, because a lot of the people that I was serving in the clinic of Chinese medicine, they were trying to replace pharmaceuticals with herbs without addressing the nutritional deficiencies. And the herbs would work to a point, but they wouldn't work all the way. So I had to go to nutrition, because that's where most of the deep rejuvenation and profound healing lies, in correcting nutritional deficiencies through whole foods, juices, blended foods, and superfoods like cacao. So as I was learning all this nutrition, I began to realize that, first of all, I started eating better, and I started eating more whole foods and organic foods, and then I started doing nutrient saturation. I started flooding my body with superfoods and highly mineralized foods like cacao, and now I'm 80% raw. I'm vegetarian, no longer vegan. I do consciously eat some animal products, and my 80% raw, super conscious lifestyle is what gives me my glow and my radiant health. and I eat raw cacao almost every day, and I love it. It's a delicious food.
Yeah, absolutely. When done correctly, we're going to get into some of the ways of how to make that very delicious and tasty. And you got some similarities to what I went through. I was mostly an introvert and realized I had to get out of that if I wanted to get where I was going in life, and didn't have so much a trigger event as I played baseball and football all growing up, and so my coaches got into me, okay, you know, here's the workout plan and the weightlifting, but it's also important to have the nutritional side, so that's what started me down this path. So I always like hearing those stories of if there was something like that and how it worked out. So glad to hear you got that turned around, and it is possible to take care of some of those issues without what most people think, at least here in the U.S., what most people think is the only way is through pills and medications. So there's another way.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about now, let's get into what this whole interview and the foundation is. One of the favorite topics of the media, the public, and other experts, and there's so many misconceptions around it, which is chocolate. And like I said, there's a lot of myths surrounding chocolate. So tell me a little bit about how it can be healthy.
Well, the first thing to know and understand for our audience who's listening is that not all cacao is created equal. And so there's the typical Hershey's and Nestle's cocoa powders that you find in the chocolate bars in your convenience stores and in your grocery store shelves. And cocoa powder and cacao powder are essentially the same substance. The differentiation, or the difference that's important for people to know, is the farm that the cacao comes from and the manufacturing processes that the cacao is going through to get to the bag or the box that you're using in your lifestyle. So a lot of the Nestle and Hershey's cacaos are highly processed, highly heated. It's a conglomeration of like 6 to 8 different farms, and they bring in these massive amounts of cacao beans. They use lots of heat and pressure and processing, and then they add alkali and all of some of these toxic additives, and then they package it and make it into candies or make it into your cocoa powders you buy at the store. That's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about, healthy cacao comes from single origin farms. It's grown ethically, it's harvested correctly, it's fermented, for 1 to 3 days, and then it's manufactured at low temperature, low heat, low pressure, made into either a powder or butter, and that is as close as you can get to its natural state. And so there's a lot of, I would say probably 90% of the cacao you find on the market is not the high quality, life-giving cacao. It's only about 5 to 10% on the market, and we can share brands later on. But there's a difference between the Hershey's and Nestle's, quality, and then the really good quality cacao, which is really not that much more expensive. It's just grown differently, harvested consciously and ethically. It's manufactured better, and it's also, it comes from really good source, good quality cacao beans.
That was a little funny. You named some of those big chocolate companies and also put their quality, as if, because what they do to it, like you said, with the high heat, destroys a lot of the cellular structure and the mineral content, and then of course they infuse the dairy and the other stuff in there.
Yeah.
That kills a lot of the nutrients and also adds a lot of bad stuff on top of that. So
yeah, when you start using raw cacao,
the source and how it's prepared is supremely important.
Yes, yeah. Know your source. Make sure it comes from a single origin farms, and those farms usually come from Ecuador or Africa, South Africa, or Bali, Indonesia. And so there's really conscious single origin cacao farms that are using old world, farming practices with new world manufacturing to make the highest quality, clean, organic, low heat processed cacao powder, as well as cacao nibs and beans and butter. So let's talk about the 4 different forms of cacao. You can get cacao in the form of butter, which is the fat that's pressed out from the bean. You can do cacao powder, which is the powder that's left over after they press the fat out. So when they use hydraulic presses to press the fat, what's left is a cake, and that cake is converted into cacao powder. And then the third most common form is cacao beans, which is just the beans that have been sun-dried and fermented and then processed and packaged. And then there's the cacao nibs, which are the beans that have been crushed. And cacao nibs are found in trail mixes. They're great in cereals, granolas, smoothies. And that's like the beans and the nibs are the whole food form of chocolate that you would use for that rich, dark, chocolatey flavor. The cacao butter and the cacao powder are more gourmet raw food ingredients that you would use making your own chocolates or your own smoothies and elixirs. And so those are the four primary forms: cacao butter, cacao powder, cacao nibs, and cacao beans.
Now, for the nibs, do they put any kind of? We'll get into this a little more with sweeteners, but chocolate is a little bit bitter. So, do they? The companies address that?
Yeah, a lot of the cacao farms, because cacao farms will ferment the cacao beans for 1 to 3 days, and the fermentation of the beans reduces bitterness naturally. Now, a lot of the cacao you buy from mass production cacao plantations are not fermented correctly, so sometimes that's why they're adding lots of sugar, because the cacao has not been properly fermented, or it's been improperly fermented and it has mold and fungus in the cacao. And so that's why you want to know your source and buy a good quality cacao powder so that you know the source is actually fermenting it correctly. And that really requires a lot of research or just trusting in your brand. And so the fermentation of the cacao beans reduces bitterness, and then you can, when you're using raw cacao powder or cacao nibs or beans, there's a great company I like to refer people to called Big Tree Farms and Earth Circle Organics, and they lightly sweeten their cacao nibs with coconut palm nectar, which is a low glycemic, highly mineralized sweetener. And coconut palm nectar, or coconut sugar, is a great sweetener for cacao, much better than like turbinado sugar or agave. And so the coconut nectar is a really common sweetener to sweeten
Very
cacao.
Nice. Well, let's get into one of the favorite topics that a lot of people looking into this will love to get more information on and find out if it really can be the case. Can chocolate help you lose weight?
Yes and no. And the reason I say that is because it's how you use the chocolate in terms of a healthy lifestyle. So eating lots of Hershey bars and processed Nestle products, filled with pasteurized dairy and processed fats, trans fatty acids, and sugar, that will not help you lose weight.
And of course, the ubiquitous high fructose corn syrup.
Yes, that too. So eating highly processed chocolates with lots of dairy and sugar, when we add milk and processed sugar to cacao, it ruins it, so to speak, because you're losing a lot of the beneficial properties. And so the cacao in and of itself, when it's pure and it's made with whole food ingredients and blended properly or consumed in a healthy lifestyle, it does contain lots of magnesium, sulfur, iron, manganese, copper, and zinc. And these essential minerals do help support weight loss, because most people who are overweight are very acidic and depleted of certain key essential minerals. Cacao is loaded with magnesium, iron, and zinc, and so it floods the body with minerals. Cacao also does stimulate metabolism, and cacao is very rich in not only minerals, it has over 300 different compounds. And when it's in its raw state, these 300 compounds include protein, fat, B vitamins, and the beauty minerals I mentioned before, like calcium, sulfur, manganese, phosphorus, iron, zinc, and copper. And cacao contains the highest levels of magnesium and chromium of any known food. And magnesium and chromium are the two most deficient minerals in the West, or in America. So eating raw cacao in its high-quality form supplies these essential beauty minerals, as well as B vitamins, proteins, and fat. And when consumed properly, all of that supports weight loss. Yes, yes, yes.
And it's also a good source of potassium from the sources I've read when, of course, when we're talking about the quality sources.
Yes, potassium as well. And that has to do with the single origin cacao farms all around the equator. And the healthiest foods in the world come from the rainforests. So cacao is a shade-grown tree grown in the rainforest where the soils have been filtering and building for over 1,000 years through the heavy rain and topsoil. And it's a beautiful tree that sprouts these very oblong, purple and yellow and beige pods. And so all the minerals, the potassium and the magnesium from the forests and the rainforest are infused in cacao beans that's converted into our cacao powder and nibs. So you're getting all of those super nutrients from the rainforest into this food, and it's a very nutrient dense food compared to a lot of other foods that our conventional foods, organic foods. They don't have anything compared to our superfoods grown in the rainforests.
Yeah, and with the way the food supply is today, it requires a combination of those vegetables and organic vegetables and superfoods to get all of those minerals and vitamins that we need.
Yeah, it's important to eat a healthy, plant-strong diet of organic fruits and vegetables. And when you add superfoods like cacao and other superfoods like maca and goji berry and hemp seeds and chia seeds and the foods that you and I love to eat, all of these foods, these superfoods, start to fill the nutrient gap from the conventional organic foods we're eating. Most people don't know this, but our topsoil is not what it used to be compared to before World War I. And they did some research. One of my mentors, Dr. John Gray, from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, he's been a nutrition expert for over 20 years. And he found a Canadian study where they tested a bag of spinach. One bag of spinach from the 1970s had 5 times more nutrients than a bag of organic spinach today. So today it would take 5 bags of organic spinach to equivalent 1 bag from the 70s. And one of my other teachers, Dr. Bob Marshall, he's a amazing researcher on nutrition from Premier Research, and the USDA released a statistical analysis of organic peaches, and an organic peach today, compared to organic peach from 1950s, it would take 53 organic peaches to equivalent 1 peach from the 1950s in nutritional value. So
you're speaking my language now.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is a rapid decline in not just nutrient value from organic to conventional, because conventional foods don't have near the nutrient density. Buy organic whenever possible, or even in organic foods, we're seeing a decrease in nutrient density. And so what I've begun to understand in this whole understanding the superfood revolution is that these superfoods coming from high mountain rainforests and high mountain villages, they're actually filling in this nutrient gap that we're not getting. Even when we're eating the best of organic foods, we're not being fed like we used to before the war. And so now, as a consequence, even when we eat a lot of organic foods, adding superfoods helps fill the nutrient gap. And that's so powerful. Like, just adding 1 or 3 or 2 or 3 superfoods is so helpful for getting those minerals, those vital essential minerals back into your life.
Yeah, those are some amazing stats about 5 times the value spinach had in the 70s versus today, and 53 times the value of 1950s peaches versus today, because as you know, here in Austin, it's Fredericksburg peach season, and these are fantastic tasting peaches, but unfortunately not giving me the nutrient value I had hoped. So.
And yes, still eat your peaches from Fredericksburg, because they're giving you vitamin C, vitamin A, and B vitamins. Just complement what you eat organically with some superfoods, and you will notice a boost in energy and health. It's why we live in a beautiful world today, Clint. We have commerce and all of these amazing companies importing superfoods now. And we have access to foods today that we haven't had access to in really the past 100 years of commerce, of importing foods. And now that we can get raw single origin cacao and goji berries and chia and hemp and maca and spirulina and chlorella, these foods heal, and they heal from their nutritional density. It's the nutrient saturation of these foods, like the raw chocolate.
Well, what factors can somebody look at if they're going into Whole Foods or some of the things we recommend here in companies to give them some education? What factors do they look at to decide whether this chocolate is a healthy source or not?
When you're going into your natural food store to buy raw cacao, you want to look for raw, certified organic, and single origin. So you look on the back of the product, and it says made from cacao beans from Ecuador or Bali, Indonesia. So you don't want to, if they don't give you a country of origin for the cacao, don't buy it. You want to make sure, because they're going to be proud to put that on the label, like cacao from Ecuador, cacao from Bali, cacao from Trinidad or South Africa. And so that those companies like Sun Food, Essential Living Foods, and Earth Circle are my really top three companies for cacao powder. Mike Adams just did a recent research of the Food Forensics Labs studying some of the contamination in cacao. And I just recently learned, Clint, and this is good information for your audience, that some of the cleanest cacao powder comes from Bali, Indonesia, through a company called Big Tree Farms and a distributor called Earth Circle Organics. So if your audience is very discerning and they want to buy the best of the best cacao, buy it from Big Tree Farms through Earth Circle Organics, because this cacao is actually testing lowest in contaminants in the form of heavy metals. So Big Tree Farms Earth Circle Organics is some of the highest quality organic, single origin, raw cacao powder, cacao butter, as well as cacao nibs. And then if you can't find that at your store, look for either Sun Food or Essential Living Foods cacao powder. Those are widely available in most every Whole Foods in the country.
Okay. Well, now we've talked a little bit about the taste, and I know you've got some sweeteners you're gonna show us. But raw chocolate has a bitter taste, and you've mentioned a little bit about how fermenting helps to blunt that and lessen that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about that's because of this bitter taste when it's prepared improperly. That's why the big candy companies, they burn it, they load it with sugar and milk and all these other things. So what do you recommend as a healthy alternative to better flavor the raw chocolate so it's enjoyable while still keeping all of the health and nutrient benefits?
Gotcha. So I enjoy three forms of like, let's say, recipes, types of recipes for cacao. I make chocolate smoothies, I make raw chocolates, and I also make chocolate elixirs. So that's really the three forms. And like you're drinking chocolate bliss right now, that would be like a chocolate smoothie or a chocolate elixir. It's a liquid form of raw chocolate. And you're going to use different sweeteners. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's the difference between or what do you define as smoothie different from elixir?
A chocolate smoothie is going to have more fiber and protein, generally speaking. A chocolate elixir is going to be like raw hot cocoa, or a chocolate butterscotch drink, where it's basically just a few simple ingredients in a higher liquid form. There's more liquid to it. Whereas when you make a smoothie, you might add like chia, hemp, frozen banana, fruits, spinach. So in a smoothie, you have more fiber and more protein, and it's more of a meal replacement with it. Whereas an elixir, and in our Blending for Beauty program, we have recipes for both smoothies and elixirs, and I make a chocolate elixir that's just to live for. I mean, it's amazing. And I mix raw cacao, lucuma, mesquite, 4 types of healing salt in a custom cacao powder blend. And so, as you work with raw cacao, you start to become a chocolate alchemist, and you start learning how to make chocolate taste better. And when you go to Whole Foods and you buy like an Essential Living Foods product or a Sun Food product, Essential Living Foods has powdered blends that where they mix chocolate with other foods to make it taste even better. And so going back to the 3 main ways you would eat raw cacao: a smoothie, a raw chocolate, you make it yourself, or an elixir. You're going to use in your smoothies natural sweeteners in the form of like coconut nectar, blended dates, coconut palm sugar, which is the powdered form of liquid coconut nectar. And I have a little prop today. This is a full form of coconut sugar made by Navitas.
I see Indonesian sweetener.
Yeah, and this comes from Indonesia. And there's another sweetener that's new on the market I really like called sunroot sweetener, which is Jerusalem artichoke. And this has a rich maple and molasses-like flavor, and it's great for people healing diabetes. It's low glycemic. So in a smoothie, you could use coconut nectar or the sunroot sweetener. You could use dates. Dates are a great sweetener because they're made from fruit, and they have all the sugars in perfect balance. So anytime you can use a fruit sugar, that's best for those, you know, enjoying the sweet taste. For those who like a little bit of a sweeter taste, the coconut sugar is a little sweeter. And for those looking for lower glycemic, a sunroot sweetener is good. And then I also have on the Hangout today, I have some other sweeteners from Omica Organics, stevias, liquid stevias. So they have a plain vanilla and butterscotch stevia. And in my smoothies and elixirs, I add about 1 to 3 drops of the Omica stevias, even when there's dates or coconut nectar, because one of the things that's really cool for our listeners is combining stevia with a natural sweetener. You drop down the sweetener and you add a few drops of stevia, and that balances the sweet and gives you all the healing properties of stevia for blood sugar balancing. So to avoid the sugar highs and lows, use something like a coconut sugar and then add a few drops of Omica vanilla stevia or butterscotch stevia, and they're delicious in gourmet raw chocolate smoothies.
Yeah, you mentioned blood sugar. That's supremely important today because I believe the stat I read was over a third of Americans will have some type of diabetes or somewhere along the pre-diabetes scale or metabolic syndrome. But is a little bit before diabetes in their lifetime. So we've got serious blood sugar issues and insulin response and resistance problems going on.
Yeah, and I left out raw honey for a reason. Raw honey is a great sweetener when you're making like gourmet desserts, like cheesecakes and raw cinnamon rolls, and maybe a sprouted granola. But generally, honey is best eaten by itself or in like an elixir or a tea. I really prefer the other sweeteners like coconut sugar, sunroot sweetener, stevias in cacao smoothies and elixirs over honey because honey is best eaten in a simpler form. Although you could use raw honey too, but honey usually has a little bit more of a load on blood sugar than coconut nectar or sunroot. So that's why I left honey out. For those people who enjoy raw local honey, feel free to use it because it is a good sweetener as well. It's just going back to diabetes, 1 out of 3 people will have diabetes. That's a third you mentioned. That's 1 out of 3 people you know and love will have diabetes at some point in their life. And a lot of that is caused from toxicity. Toxicity in the gallbladder, the colon, and heavy metal toxicity in the body. So it's really important to learn how to cleanse to restore your blood sugar because a lot of it's related to toxins in the body.
Yeah, my coach had an interesting saying, not so much about diabetes, but that whole concept of look to your right, look to your left, and probably one of these guys won't be here on the team at the end of tryouts. So it's pretty similar concept when you're out there at the mall or a movie or just out in public. Look to your right, look to your left, and one of those people's got diabetes and dealing with all the negative problems that go along with that. So,
I just wanted to throw that in there because it's important to know and understand these issues and address them early. Prevention is the best medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. And how big and widespread the problem is, so people can grasp that gravity, because it's easy to overlook if it's not affecting you at this moment right now. So let's talk a little bit. We'll shift gears a little bit. And what if somebody's looking to improve their exercise or compete athletically? In what specific ways would a raw chocolate blend or one of these 4 forms help them to perform better?
Well, first and foremost, it's the magnesium, potassium, chromium levels of raw chocolate that really help improve performance pre-exercise, and also it can improve recovery post-exercise. And so any one of our raw chocolate smoothie recipes from Blending for Beauty would help in post-exercise for increasing recovery. Raw chocolate is made from the cacao bean, and beans are rich in protein. And so, cacao does contain protein as well as lots of minerals to improve recovery. And so for athletes seeking to improve performance, I would recommend using like a chocolate elixir 2 hours before exercise, and then post-exercise a chocolate smoothie made with like almond milk and cacao powder, maybe some frozen banana, a couple drops of stevia, ground chia, ground hemp. Blend that all together. You've got a great post-workout smoothie for recovery. And then in addition to that base I mentioned of almond milk, cacao, and a little bit of banana or date, you can add a protein powder, your favorite, vegan or conscious, animal protein powder into that smoothie, and that also makes it more of a post-recovery smoothie. So athletes really thrive on superfoods. And it's the nutrient density and nutrient saturation that's the key distinguishing factor. It's like most athletes overeat carbohydrates and undereat supernutrients. And so when you're an athlete and you start fueling your body with superfoods, in addition to healthy proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, it's those superfoods like cacao, as well as a few other ones I mentioned like ground chia and hemp and protein powders. These superfoods add nutrient density, nutrient saturation, and that's what takes an athlete to his next level of his game. It's like firing on all 12 cylinders. Like you could be a Ford Focus 4-cylinder, or you can be a Maserati 12-cylinder. And when you're an athlete fueling yourself on superfoods and superfood smoothies and superfood elixirs, you're firing on all 12 cylinders.
Yeah, definitely. I like that analogy, and become more of that McLaren F1 or the Rolls-Royce versus the little Ford or Chevy that you see out there on the roadways. And that was, I think you covered basically the final question I was going to get on that point was the before, during, and after of an exercise. So it seems like before and during, it's good to have more of the chocolate elixir, the liquid form, so you get those nutrients fast and keep those nutrients replenished, the electrolytes and all that other stuff that one of those companies had made so famous in their marketing, but they've got a whole lot of sugar and other bad stuff in their product versus what we're doing here to keep that nutrient balance good. And then after is more of the smoothie blend where you add some of those other factors along with the cacao. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah. I mean, really the best thing to have before exercise is high liquid content elixir, with lots of healing salts and minerals and maybe some superfoods. Keep it mostly liquid and light, and then post-exercise for recovery, that's when you bring in the smoothies and the fibers and proteins to really help rebuild and replenish muscle and also improve recovery time, because you don't need to be sore for days and days and days. When you're getting the right hydration, healing salt, and minerals from our superfoods, you recover very quickly. And that's one thing athletes notice right away when they feed their body with these types of superfoods, is quicker recovery time as well.
Well, very awesome. Let's get into our final part of the interview here. You've mentioned at a few different points some recipes and different recommendations for how they can go about getting these smoothies and elixirs and the raw forms, the solid forms. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now with that program, teaching people how to do that, and what's in the development stage for you.
Cool. Well, we just launched a new program called Juicing for Fat Loss, and that's juicingforfatloss.tv. And in this program, we have blending for beauty and over 22 juicing recipes, teaching people the art and practice of juicing for weight loss, as well as juicing for life practice. So that's juicingforfatloss.tv. In that program, you get 10 reports, video tutorials, and 30 days of email coaching teaching people juicing as a life practice and juicing for weight loss. We're just about to launch a new program called Blending for Beauty, and that's blendingforbeauty.com. And be patient with us because the website is not up right now, and it will be up in the next few weeks. Blendingforbeauty.com, and that's going to be more aligned with our conversation today, where we go over how to make beauty nut and seed milks and beauty smoothies and beauty, elixirs for beauty and the top 22 supplements for beauty. And this is a really powerful program to teach you how to use cacao and these other superfoods in your blended foods to promote beauty inside and out. And it's for both women and men. Even though you hear the term beauty, you think women, but also men thrive with these recipes and blended foods through higher energy, vitality, and performance. So I like to joke, outperform your competition with our blended supplements and superfoods.
For beauty, yeah.
Yeah, blending for beauty.
Your competition and domination is more beautiful when you're winning.
Yes, yes. So yeah, the Blending for Beauty program will be launching in a couple weeks, and we're really excited about this program because everyone has a blender. And if you're listening right now and you have a blender, you can start making your own, homemade almond milk or coconut milk or hemp milk. You can make your own green smoothies. You can make your own cacao smoothies and cacao elixirs. And the biggest roadblock is, how do I make it? How do I make these? And more importantly, Clint, how do I make it taste good?
Well, what exact ingredients and from what good quality sources do I use? And then, like you said, how can I make it at least tolerable to chug down?
Yeah, so we have a chocolate green smoothie in our program. We have a raw almond hot cocoa elixir. We have a cacao vanilla dream smoothie. We have a cocoa Chanel smoothie inspired by one of our local friends here in Austin. So we have delicious smoothies, elixirs, and even a chocolate green smoothie in our program. And it's, making it taste good is where we come in, because after 8 years of being raw and organic and trying a lot of different ingredients, we've found the perfect recipes that even your kids will drink, that are nutrient dense, whole food, organic, and healthy. And the recipes we've made are 100% raw gourmet smoothies and elixirs. They're really top shelf recipes, and a lot of them are very inexpensive to make. It's not like you have to buy a bunch of expensive ingredients. And you mentioned, what do I use? What products do I use in my smoothies and elixirs? Well, we address that in our top 22 supplements for beauty, where we highlight 22 different, potions and powders. I like to call them our potions and powders, and our liquids and supplements that really give people the best of the best. And really, it's like, if you're going to use any supplement or powder in your recipes, use these top 22 supplements and start with our top 5, which is in the beginning. So that's going to be in the Blending for Beauty program, blendingforbeauty.com. We're really excited about this program because it's easily accessible, and a lot of people are going to start feeling the benefits of nutrient saturation and nutrient density. We're just not getting enough from our food as we used to, so now adding the smoothies, adding cacao, adding the elixirs is filling in that nutrient gap. It's helping people eat to thrive instead of just eating to survive. It's really about thriving. It's about being beautiful, vibrant, radiant health, radiant vitality through getting that nutrient density and saturation through these foods.
Yeah, and just to highlight a very important point you made, I get a lot of people that ask me, how do I do it? How do I stay in good shape and good health? And I'll usually tell people, but I hesitate a little bit because what I do is not very sustainable for a lot of people, because my vegetable smoothie is not the tastiest thing in the world, so it's hard for people to stick to. And that's what I like about your program, is that you've added in very healthy, nutrient-dense stuff to put a little bit of the sweetener to dull some of that bitterness while still getting all the benefits of those bitter foods, the sweet fruits, and some of the other things. So all of these work together in combination to complement one another and come together in a complete nutrient, vitamin, and mineral dense drink or smoothie that people can easily make, easily consume, and it's also affordable.
Yeah, and that's really insightful what you said there, Clint, that combining the sweet and the bitter, all the flavors, the sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and pungent. When you're working with more of these flavors, you do need to combine a little bit of frozen banana with spinach or kale, a little bit of mango, a little bit of like tocotrienols and coconut nectar and the stevias and all these different ingredients we teach. It's balancing the flavors, because when it tastes good, it's sustainable. If it doesn't taste good, people will stop and sabotage themselves. So it's got to taste good to be sustainable.
Yeah, and at least here in the U.S., there's not much of there's no problem. There's actually a big problem on the other side of too much of the sugary sweet flavors.
Yeah.
Usually we get plenty of the sour flavors, and usually we get, again, too much of the bad sodium in the form of, over-processed, overheated table salt versus
Yeah.
the elemental form Na of sodium that is one of the four main minerals that our body needs: your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium, and your calcium. So I like that you've addressed all of those things, and at this point, if you've got any final thoughts, let's do that, and then we'll wrap this interview.
For everyone listening, I encourage you to go step by step. Just add some of the recipes we mentioned today. Go online and add a green smoothie, add a chocolate smoothie to your lifestyle for breakfast or between lunch and dinner, and just take it step by step. Enjoy the superfoods. Enjoy the culinary alchemy and the exploration of these foods, because if you get into this lifestyle that Clint and I love, you're going to become a foodie. And it's going to be a lot of fun because you're going to experience flavors and energy and vitality you've never experienced before. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful exploration.
Yeah, and you mentioned just a few groups. We talked about the athletes, people who want to lose weight, but also for your business and your career. If you have more energy, if you have more mental acuity and clarity in your mind because you've got the proper minerals that your mind needs, your mind uses over 30% of your body's energy consumption every day. So you'll be a lot sharper, even if you're in a professional sitting in a computer chair all day versus a construction worker. This can help all different types of business people and careers.
Yes. It's the increase of performance, mental clarity, focus, alertness, vitality. All of that is important for not only athletes but for our business professionals and people who are sitting at a desk. And so, one thing I'd also know for our listeners is that everyone is unique, and it's important to honor your own uniqueness. So if you're really overweight, go find a program and a coach who can help you lose some weight and incorporate these foods consciously for your uniqueness. If you're an athlete or if you're a business executive, you're going to have different needs, different types of uniqueness. So you need to find your right coach and program that supports those needs. And so there's no one size fits all. So honor your uniqueness and do what's right for you by finding the programs that you're best fit.
Very good final points. Honor your uniqueness and find the right mentor for you in that support system, because those are three very big factors to sustainable progress and ultimate success to reach the outcome you're looking to reach.
Yeah, and that's why we're building Juicing for Fat Loss, Blending for Beauty, and all the products after that, because we want to be able to help people and meet them where they're at and then give them real solutions depending on what their needs and uniqueness is. So
Take them down that path to reach their destination. Very cool, Arttemis. Thanks again for being here today. Very insightful, fascinating, and useful interview. I'll look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you, Clint. Great to be here.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.